I never thought I'd be the guy writing about how my wife, Lisa, completely destroyed everything we had, but here I am. We had a decent relationship, nothing perfect, but I thought we were solid. We met in college, got married 5 years ago, and for most of that time, I genuinely believed Lisa was the one. She was always a little bitchy, quick to throw a tantrum if things didn't go her way, but I brushed it off as her being difficult. Honestly, I thought that was just her personality. Recently, though, she'd been acting weird. Little things at first, missing calls, late nights at work, excuses about being busy. But I let it slide because, well, I was busy too. I was working long hours trying to get a promotion at my job, and I thought maybe she was stressed or just busy with her own stuff. But then, the signs started piling up. Her phone started to get more secretive. She'd take calls in the bathroom or sneak around when she thought I wasn't looking. Small things, but enough to make me suspicious. Still, I didn't want to believe she'd cheat. She'd always been so bitchy and manipulative. But I figured that was just her personality, not her cheating. One night, I came home earlier than expected because I had a gut feeling something was up. I wanted to surprise her, maybe catch her off guard. I got into the apartment and immediately noticed her purse was gone. No sign of her anywhere. Her phone was on the table and I saw a text notification pop up. It was from some guy named Mike saying, "Can't wait to see you tonight. I've missed you so much." My heart dropped. I stared at the phone for a second, trying to process what I was seeing. I couldn't believe it. She'd been lying to my face this whole time, telling me she was at work or out with friends when she was actually sneaking around with some guy. I wasn't even mad at the fact she cheated. I was just stunned that she'd lie so effortlessly, that she'd betray me like this after all these years. I decided I needed to know everything. I started digging through her phone, going through messages, pictures, anything I could find. That's when I saw the photos. She was with Mike, clearly in some hotel, taking selfies, smirking at the camera like they were on some secret date. They even looked like they'd been doing more than just talking. It was sickening. I felt my stomach turn, eyes watering. She'd been having sex with him, probably on the nights she told me she was working late or out with her friends. I couldn't put into words how betrayed I felt, like my whole world was crashing down around me. I didn't want to lose my mind, so I kept calm and quietly gathered all the evidence. I texted her from my phone, pretending to be someone else, asking her where she was. She texted back that she was at her sister's place, but I knew better. I had already seen enough. That's when I decided I couldn't just let her get away with it. I needed to confront her face to face. I waited until she got home, heart pounding out of my chest. When she walked in, I just looked at her, cold and furious, holding her phone out in front of me. She saw the evidence on the screen, the photos, the texts, the time stamps. Her face twisted into one of her typical bitchy expressions, trying to lie her way out of it. "Who is Mike?" I asked. Her eyes rolled and she tried to brush it off, saying, "It's nothing, just some guy from work, you're overreacting." But I knew better. I could see the panic in her eyes. She kept lying, telling me it was just a mistake, that they only kissed once, that it didn't mean anything. But I knew the truth. I knew she'd been cheating on me for months, maybe longer. And that's when everything changed. I realized that my whole life, I was building my future with someone who didn't even care about me, who was happy to lie, cheat, and sneak around behind my back. My mind was racing, trying to figure out what to do next, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let her ruin me. Not like this. Not after everything we'd been through. "Do you want me to keep going?" After I saw her lying there, trying to spin some bullshit about it being just a mistake or nothing serious, I felt a mix of anger, heartbreak, and disgust. I've always believed in honesty, even when it hurts, but Lisa just lied straight to my face. That moment, standing in my own apartment, realizing she'd been screwing around with some guy she barely even knew, made me see her in a whole new light. All those little signs, her sneaking around, her dismissive attitude, the late nights, were just her trying to hide this. It hit me like a punch in the stomach. I was so furious I could barely speak. I remember staring at her, my fists clenched, trying to keep control. I wasn't about to break down or yell at her, at least not yet. I just looked at her and told her she needed to leave. I told her I'd had enough of her bullshit, that I wanted her out of my life. She started to protest, of course, bitching that I was overreacting, that it was just sex, that I didn't understand her, that she was still the same person. Yeah, right. Like I was going to buy that. I watched her grab her purse and storm out, snarling some excuse about how I was crazy and paranoid. That's when I realized she'd been gaslighting me from day one. The moment she left, I felt this huge wave of relief mixed with deep sadness. Part of me wanted to believe she'd come back, that she'd realize what she'd lost. But deep down, I knew that was just wishful thinking. I sat on the couch, staring blankly at the wall, trying to process everything. My mind kept circling back to that betrayal, the sex with Mike, the lies, the way she'd manipulated me into thinking everything was fine. I'd given her my trust, my loyalty, my heart, and she'd thrown it all away for some meaningless affair. I started second-guessing every moment of our relationship. Had I been blind? Did she ever care about me? Or was I just some guy she settled for? The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. How could she do this? How could she lie so convincingly? I remembered how she'd always been bitchy, how she liked to control everything, and now I saw that she'd been controlling me all along, controlling the narrative, the truth. I knew I couldn't just let this go. I needed a plan. I wanted her to feel what I was feeling, betrayed, humiliated, and angry. I decided I'd find a way to get back at her, to make her regret ever messing with me. I didn't want some half-assed breakup. I wanted to punish her for all the lies, for the sex with Mike, for disrespecting everything we had. I started thinking about what I could do, how I could make her see that I wasn't some sucker who'd get played and walk away. In the days that followed, I stayed quiet, watching her from a distance, gathering evidence and plotting my next move. I knew her weakness, her ego, and her bitchy attitude. I also knew she loved to lie her way out of everything, so I wanted to catch her again, but this time on my terms. I didn't want some messy shouting match. I wanted her to realize she'd lost control. I hired a private investigator to follow her, just to see where she went and who she was really seeing. Turns out, she was still sneaking around, meeting Mike in secret, even after I kicked her out. That just made my resolve stronger. One night, I decided to confront her again, this time with everything I'd found. I called her and told her I knew about the affair, that I had proof, and that she needed to come clean. She was furious, claiming I was stalking her, that I was crazy, that I was just jealous. But I kept pushing, and finally she snapped. She started screaming, calling me paranoid and insecure. That was her way of deflecting, trying to make me doubt myself, but I wasn't about to let her manipulate me anymore. I had everything I needed to end this once and for all. I realized that this wasn't just about cheating, it was about respect, or rather, the lack of it. Lisa had shown her true colors, and I knew I'd never be able to trust her again. I felt the burn of betrayal, but also a strange sense of clarity. I deserved better, and I was done playing the fool. I was ready to take control of this mess, to do whatever it took to reclaim my dignity. Do you want me to keep going? After I collected enough evidence and had that final confrontation, I knew I had to make a decisive move. Sitting there, listening to her scream and lie, I felt a strange mixture of anger and relief. I'd finally cracked through her bitchy facade and seen what she really was, just another manipulative, selfish woman who'd cheat behind my back and then deny it to my face. I decided I wasn't going to be her punching bag anymore. That night I sat down and planned my next steps carefully. For days I had been gathering everything I could, screenshots, texts, photos, even voice recordings from her phone. I wasn't just planning to throw her out and call it a day. I wanted to hurt her where it mattered, to teach her a lesson she'd never forget. I knew her ego was her weakness, and I wanted to break it. I started by making some calls to a few people I trusted, my brother, a close friend, just to get some perspective and support. I also reached out to a lawyer I knew, someone who specialized in family law and could advise me on how to handle the divorce and custody issues if it came to that. Meanwhile, Lisa kept trying to spin her stories. She told me she was sorry, that she'd never meant to hurt me, that she was just under a lot of stress. Yeah, right. I saw her true face then, bitchy, manipulative, and completely self-absorbed. She kept insisting that I was overreacting, that it was just sex, but I knew better. I knew she'd been lying about everything. That was the moment I realized I had to cut her out of my life for good. I couldn't keep pretending that this was just a mistake. This was betrayal on a level I'd never imagined. I started drafting a plan to confront her in a way she wouldn't see coming. I wanted her to feel vulnerable, exposed, just as she'd made me feel. I decided to set up a meeting with her in a public place, somewhere neutral, so I could get her to admit everything. I also had a friend help me record the conversation. I knew she'd lie, try to manipulate her way out of it, but I wanted the proof, the raw truth. I made it clear to her that I was done messing around, that I knew everything, and that I was prepared to punish her for the damage she'd done. The day of the confrontation arrived. She showed up dressed to look innocent, like she was trying to charm her way out of trouble, and I could see the bitchy glint in her eyes. We sat down at a quiet cafe and I started laying everything out, the evidence, the texts, the photos. I made sure she knew I had everything, that I'd seen it all. Her face went pale at first, but then she started to get angry, trying to deny everything. She called me paranoid, insecure, and accused me of spying on her. I kept my cool and pressed her harder, telling her I wasn't leaving until she admitted to everything. That's when she finally cracked. She snarled and snapped, saying, "Fine, yes, I cheated, but what does it matter? You're so boring, so predictable. I needed excitement and Mike was just a way out. It didn't mean anything. I was just having sex, that's all." Her words made my stomach turn. That was her way of minimizing the pain, trying to make me feel like I was overreacting. But I was. I'd been betrayed in the worst way, and I knew it was time to hit back. I told her I was done, that I was filing for divorce, and that I was taking everything I had left, my dignity, my assets, whatever I could salvage, and walking away. Her reaction was classic. She started crying, yelling, throwing fits, trying to guilt-trip me into staying. She called me all kinds of names, told me I was lucky to have her, that I'd regret losing her. I just sat there, listening, feeling nothing but disgust. I knew she'd never change, that her bitchy, manipulative side was who she really was. That day, I finally saw the truth about her and I made my decision. I'd had enough. I was done being the fool in her game. In the days that followed, I moved out of the apartment, got a new place, and started the process of divorce. It wasn't easy. I felt like I was losing a part of myself, but at the same time, I felt liberated. I realized that I'd been blind, that I'd wasted so much time trying to fix something that was broken beyond repair. I learned that some people just don't change, no matter how much you want them to. And I understood that sometimes the best revenge is walking away and rebuilding your life from scratch. Now I'm focusing on myself. I've cut her completely out of my life, blocked her from everything, and I'm trying to forget the pain. But I will. Say this, I never thought I'd be the guy who gets cheated on, especially by someone I loved and trusted so much. It's a hard lesson, but one I think everyone should learn at some point. People's true colors come out when it's easiest for them. And if you're going through something similar, just remember, you don't owe anyone your happiness or your peace. Sometimes, the best thing you can do is cut your losses and move on. The aftermath of everything hit me harder than I expected. I knew I was making the right decision, cutting her loose, moving on, starting fresh. But that didn't make the pain go away overnight. For weeks, I felt like I was walking around in a daze, trying to piece together what had gone wrong, how I'd trusted someone who clearly never cared about me the way I thought she did. Every time I looked at the apartment, I saw her lying on the couch with her bitchy smirk, and I'd get this rush of anger mixed with sadness. The worst part was the realization that her cheating wasn't just about some meaningless sex with Mike. It was about the deeper betrayal, her lies, her manipulations, her treating me like I was disposable. I kept replaying all the little moments, all the times she dismissed my feelings, made me feel like I was overreacting. That's what really hurt. She'd always been so good at making me feel like I was crazy for suspecting her, but now I knew she'd been planning this forever. She'd been lying from the start, hiding her true self behind that bitchy attitude. I started seeing a therapist, honestly, just to keep myself sane. The first few sessions, I'd break down just talking about it. It was like I'd been gaslit and manipulated, and now I was trying to pick up the pieces. I told myself I'd learn from this, that next time I'd be smarter about who I trust. But damn, it hurt knowing I'd been played, that someone I loved and trusted had turned out to be just a complete narcissist. I also reached out to some close friends, people I knew wouldn't judge me. They told me stuff I already knew deep down: cut her out, don't look back, move forward. But it's easier said than done. Some nights I'd lie awake and think about all the times she was bitchy just to get her way, how she'd manipulate everyone around her. It's crazy how someone so small can cause so much damage. The thoughts kept swirling, and I had to remind myself that I deserved better, someone who would respect me, not lie and cheat behind my back. Getting rid of her stuff was actually harder than I thought. I threw out most of her clothes, her makeup, her stupid little accessories. But I kept a few things, just some pictures of us from better days. I guess I wanted to hold onto the memory of who I was before she tore my life apart. I even went so far as to change my number, block her from everything, delete her from social media. That was the worst part, seeing her posts, her bitchy comments, all the lies she told people about how happy she was. It was like a slap in the face every time, but I refused to let her have that power over me anymore. People kept asking if I was going to try to get her back, if I thought maybe she'd change. Honestly, I just laughed. There's no coming back from this kind of betrayal. She lied too much, manipulated me for too long, and then had the nerve to blame me for everything. I saw right through her act. I realized that some people just aren't worth the effort, no matter how much you loved them. I'd been blind, so blind. But now I saw her for what she really was: a selfish, bitchy woman who only cared about herself. That realization made me angry at first, then numb, then finally peaceful. I've started focusing on myself, my career, and my friends, things I neglected while I was busy trying to keep her happy. I started working out again, going out more, trying to rebuild my confidence from scratch. It's not easy. Some days are worse than others, especially when I catch myself thinking about the good times or wondering what I could have done differently. But deep down, I know I did everything I could. The failure was hers, not mine. And you know what? I've learned something crucial from all this. Trust is fragile. People can pretend to be something they're not, and sometimes you only find out the truth when it's way too late. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I survived this betrayal, and I'm still standing. I'll never forget what she did, but I refuse to let her ruin my future. The pain will fade, and I'll come out of this better, more cautious, more aware, and ready to find someone who actually deserves my trust and respect. Do you want me to keep going? Honestly, after everything I went through, I started reflecting a lot on what I'd learned about myself and relationships. The betrayal by Lisa wasn't just a one-time event. It was a wake-up call. It made me realize how blind I'd been for so long, how I'd ignored all the red flags just because I didn't want to face the truth. I've been so eager to believe in fairy tales that I ignored the bitchy, manipulative side she always tried to hide. And I let her get away with so much: gaslighting, lying, cheating, because I was too afraid to face the reality that she was never really the person I thought she was. Now, I see that trust has to be earned, not just given blindly. I also learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from someone who doesn't respect you, someone who only brings pain and chaos into your life. I won't lie, part of me still feels anger and resentment. I hate that she turned my life upside down, that she lied so easily, that she played me like a fool. But I also feel a strange sense of relief. I'm finally free from the emotional prison she created. I've started dating again, cautiously. It's weird. After being with Lisa for so long, it's like I've forgotten how to trust someone new. But I know now that I deserve honesty, respect, and someone who genuinely cares. Not someone bitchy who manipulates and cheats, but a real partner who values me. I've been taking it slow, and honestly, I think I'm better off alone for now. I need time to heal, to rebuild my self-esteem, and to make sure I don't fall for some similar bullshit again. What really struck me during this whole mess is how much I underestimated myself. I always thought I was the steady, logical type, but deep down, I was vulnerable, too much so. I gave her too many chances. I ignored my gut feeling, and I let her manipulate me because I wanted to believe in the best. But now I know. that I have to listen to myself more. That little voice that says, something's off, is often right. Trust your instincts, I tell myself. Never let someone treat you like crap just because you're afraid of being alone. And for anyone else out there going through something similar, don't ignore the signs. If your gut is telling you something's wrong, it probably is. Don't brush it aside or blame yourself. People like Lisa, bitchy, manipulative, selfish, sometimes hide behind a pretty face or a charming smile, but underneath they're just looking out for themselves. The pain of betrayal cuts deep, but it also teaches you who you really are. It's okay to feel angry, hurt, or lost, but don't stay stuck there. Learn from it, grow from it. I'm not perfect, and I still have moments where I feel the sting of everything she did. But I'm better, stronger. I know I'll find happiness again. Maybe alone for now, maybe someday with someone who truly deserves my trust. The important thing is, I won't let her or her lies define me. I'm moving forward and I'm determined to rebuild my life on my terms. If I've learned anything, it's this: don't settle. Don't ignore the signs. And never let anyone treat you like garbage just because you're afraid of being alone. Because in the end, the only person you truly have to count on is yourself. And I will be okay. I have to be. Would you like me to finish with the final part? Looking back, I realize I went through hell, but I also came out of it knowing more about who I am and what I deserve. Lisa's betrayal was a brutal lesson, but one I needed. It showed me that I can survive the worst kind of heartbreak and still stand tall. I think the biggest thing I learned is that some people, no matter how much you love them, just aren't worth the pain they cause. Trust is precious, and it should never be given lightly. If someone shows their true colors, bitchy, manipulative, unfaithful, don't keep trying to fix something that's already broken beyond repair. Cut your losses, walk away, and rebuild. I've also realized that revenge isn't about making someone suffer just for the sake of it. It's about reclaiming your power, showing yourself that you're stronger than the betrayal. For me, that meant ending things decisively and making sure she knew I wasn't coming back. It meant blocking her from everything and moving on as if she never existed. That's the best revenge I could give her, living well without her, thriving without the toxicity she brought into my life. Now, I'm focusing on my future. I've started to rebuild my confidence, invest in my career, and reconnect with friends I'd neglected. I don't regret the pain because it made me realize my own worth. I'm not naive anymore. No more blind trust, no more ignoring red flags. I'm cautious, but I'm also hopeful. Somewhere out there, there's someone who will actually deserve my honesty, respect, and love. I don't need someone like Lisa, and I refuse to waste any more time on someone who doesn't value me. This whole experience has been a brutal wake-up call, but it's also been a catalyst for growth. I'm not perfect, and I still have days where I feel the sting of betrayal. But I keep reminding myself, this doesn't define me. I control my story now. I decide how it ends, and I choose to move forward stronger and wiser. To anyone reading this who's going through something similar, stay strong. Trust your gut. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for walking away from toxicity. You're better off alone than with someone who treats you like trash. The pain may linger, but so does hope. And one day, you'll look back and see that this heartbreak was just a chapter. A painful one, yes, but also a crucial step toward finding the happiness you truly deserve. Never settle for less. Never let anyone take away your dignity. Because at the end of the day, the only person you need to prove anything to is yourself. And I know I'll be okay. I have to be.